When an old flame is reignited, the passion is like gasoline on an open fire.
This was the reunion they had waited so long for.
He felt as if Carissa Ellison made him a better person.
Love gives people hope.
But what neither yet knew is that around them, tempers were flaring.
Carissa had a few male friends.
He was making an a living situation for my dad over there, period.
It's very creepy to think that someone is stalking you from across the street in a cemetery, of all places.
All of which would lead to an explosion of violence, the likes of which no one in Shreveport, Louisiana will ever forget.
There's somebody else up in my mama's house. She's heard of.
It literally sent a chill up my spine.
God have mercy.
It's like a house of horrors.
Who could do this to someone and still profess to love them?
You just keep asking a question and you can't come up with an answer.
July 18th, 2013. It's a sweltering summer night in Shreveport, Louisiana. But as the heat and humidity washes over the city, a terrifying storm is about to hit like a hurricane. It begins just before 10 p.m. when 911 dispatchers receive an alarming call.
911, what's your emergency? Man, my mama said, just got home from work. I'm not getting a heartbeat. Oh, my Lord. Mama!
The caller identifies himself as 54-year-old Kelvin Ellison, and the victim, his mother, 78-year-old Irene Ellison.
You can hear him wailing on the recording, like crying and wailing as he tells the 911 operator what he sees.
Is she bleeding? Oh, yes, ma'am. She's bleeding from her chest, and I see a hole in her chest.
Recognizing the gravity of the situation, dispatchers transfer Kelvin's call to the Shreveport Police Department.
Shreveport Police? My mother looked like she's been shot. My sister's supposed to be here home sitting with her, and I don't know where the hell she's at.
He's screaming, and he gets angry because his sister, Carissa Ellison, was the person that was supposed to be home watching his mother.
As first responders race to the scene, Kelvin continues his unsettling phone call with police.
Let me touch my foresight on where y'all see my address. Hey, oh,
Okay, sir, who's there with you?
there's somebody else up in my mama's house.
The 911 respondent did not know what was going on, and they kept asking, and he couldn't even talk.
Oh, man. God have mercy. That's crazy, man. God have mercy.
But what other evil discovery lurked inside the threshold of that home? And where was Irene's daughter, Carissa? It's just the first of many questions that will hold this city in its grasp. For when love turns to jealousy, the repercussions can be explosive.
Nobody was prepared for that story. Like, nobody was expecting anything like that.
For Carissa Marshall Ellison, life began in Shreveport, Louisiana on July 1st, 1972.
Carissa lived in Moortown, which is primarily an African-American community.
I watched Carissa grow from a little girl on up till adulthood. Carissa's hopes and dreams were to have a family and have a quiet life.
That dream seemed to take hold for Carissa when she met the love of her life, Samuel Green.
Carissa and Samuel fell in love and eventually had 2 beautiful children together.
But after several years together, life's hardships drove a wedge in Carissa and Samuel's relationship. Despite still loving each other, Carissa and Samuel felt it best to go their separate ways.
Carissa communicated to everyone the feelings that she had for the father of her children, and those remained even after years of not being together.
She maintained a good relationship with her children's father, and they shared custody.
Following her breakup with Samuel, Carissa and her 2 children spent most of their time with Carissa's mother, Irene, and her brother, Kelvin. For Carissa, the additional family time together proved to be the perfect antidote for mending a broken heart.
Carissa was a homebody. She didn't really do too much. She was very family-centered, really loved her mom and her kids.
Carissa loved being a mom and always made sure her children had everything that they needed.
Her kids went to live with the father during the summertime, and during the school years, lived with Carissa.
Carissa Ellison also worked at Walmart here in Shreveport. People liked Carissa. She was fun-loving.
All right, well, I'll let you go then.
Okay,
Thank
good
you.
to see
Hey,
you.
Carissa, nice seeing you. Bye.
Carissa was essentially a carbon copy of her mother, Irene.
Irene was just a really sweet lady that would always be in her garden.
Irene had the best yard on the block, in fact, the entire street, maybe even the entire neighborhood. It was pristine.
Her and her daughter were really close. They were always around each other.
What you need me to do over here?
Get to work.
All right, boss.
Miss Irene is grandma to everybody. So it was not out of the norm for people to be at Miss Irene's home visiting her or Carissa.
As for Carissa's personal life, the beautiful single mother attracted plenty of attention over the years. Still, it wasn't until one day in 2011 that 39-year-old Carissa truly met someone that captured her heart.
Hi, I'm Brian.
Hi.
So you're Irene Ellison's daughter?
Yeah, how did you guess?
Why, it's just as beautiful as your mother.
Oh, you're a charmer.
Brian Wilson was a 58-year-old handsome man, charming man, funny man.
He drove cabs. He had other business hustles that he had going on. He sold alarms.
Like Carissa, Brian was born and raised in Shreveport, and he was also a single parent.
My kids say I'm into everything.
Oh, you have kids?
They're grown and gone mostly, but they come around on weekends and I get to see them a lot.
Okay, I have kids as well. 2, a boy and a girl, and they are my world.
As Carissa and Brian got to know one another that day, both liked what they saw.
My dad was considered a ladies' man. He did see a lot of women. He had a gold tongue. He can talk and he can draw you in just by his conversation.
But it didn't take long for this ladies' man to become a one-woman man.
This is Carissa.
Hey, how are you?
I just remember one day my dad came over with Carissa and he introduced us to her, and they were inseparable ever since then.
Wow, it's nice to finally meet you guys.
I think that my dad and Carissa were really into each other because he wasn't the type to just bring females around us, if they weren't special to him.
But as much as Brian adored Carissa, there were things from his past that he just couldn't shake. Growing up in a tough, poverty-stricken area of Shreveport, Brian's actions sometimes ran afoul of the law when it came to providing for his family.
My dad was no angel. He did time for various things, mostly white-collar stuff.
I know they were dating for at least maybe a year or two, and then he had to go to jail.
While Brian was in prison, Carissa did her best to push onward.
She was out on her own, waiting for my dad to get out of jail. She still had things that she had to do. She didn't have a car, but she had to depend on other people's transportation and things like that, too.
One of Carissa's closest male companions during this time was Daniel Powell.
They exchanged numbers and would talk on the phone every now and then.
While Daniel was able to provide Carissa with emotional support, Carissa and her mother still needed help with the everyday chores.
Mind if I mow the yard on Saturday?
That'll be perfect.
One of the male friends that Carissa Ellison had was Tommy Lee Wilson. He was a taxi cab driver, and he would take her to work to Walmart, and it developed into a friendship where he would come to Carissa Ellison's home all the time.
Hey, Miss Carissa. How you doing?
I told you, just call me Carissa.
Whatever, Miss Carissa.
He eventually started doing work around the Ellison's home. He would also help Miss Irene Ellis around the house, and he helped build a shed in the back of the home.
Tommy put a lot of work into this project. He would work on it after his shift and on weekends, and he even ran electricity to it. It was comfortable enough for someone to live in, and that someone was Tommy.
As the months passed, Carissa and her family grew closer to Tommy. Then, in January 2013, Carissa got the news she'd long waited to hear.
Brian was being released, and Carissa was thrilled.
When he got out of prison, they reconnected. When I went and picked him up, that's the first place where I took him back to Carissa's house.
Brian served his time in jail and had turned over a new leaf in life. And he and Carissa was going to make that change together.
Okay. Brian Wilson wanted to do better because he felt as if Carissa Ellison made him a better person.
Love gives people hope.
With the blessing of Carissa's mother, Irene, Brian moved into the shed behind the Ellison home, and Tommy moved out. For Brian and Carissa, it was a reunion like no other.
They were living together. You could pretty much say they were already like common law married. It seemed like they were headed towards like being together until death do you part.
But nobody could anticipate just how prophetic those words would turn out to be, or the full horror that was about to wash over this city.
Ma'am, please, ma'am.
After being separated for nearly a year, Brian Wilson and Carissa Ellison were excited to put the past behind them and start a new chapter together.
I think it's very powerful when you find somebody that's finally for you.
But on July 18th, 2013, hope gave way to heartache in the form of a terrible discovery.
Carissa Ellison's brother, Kelvin, called 911 that night and claimed that someone had shot their mother, Irene.
As police race to the scene, this unfolding tragedy takes an even more ominous turn.
There's somebody else up in my mama's house. Oh, man. Who is it? This guy my sister was dating. I told her I didn't want this shit around my house. Let me see about my sister. She's in and out there and on that stomach.
Okay, is she okay?
Please, ma'am.
Okay, calm down. The police are on the way.
Yeah, Lord.
Minutes later, first responders arrive at the scene. Inside the home, they find the bodies of 78-year-old Irene Ellison, 41-year-old Carissa Ellison, and Carissa's 58-year-old boyfriend, Brian Wilson.
It was just a devastating and horrific discovery, the likes of which shocked even the most hardened officers at the scene.
Die in such a tragic and horrifying way. Being a victim of violence, I can't imagine anything more shocking to anybody.
Shreveport is no stranger to crime, but a triple homicide is beyond the pale.
As detectives from the Shreveport Police Department arrive on the scene, they start by examining their three victims.
Brian Wilson is laid back on the couch. You can see a hole in his chest and blood.
Both Brian Wilson and Irene Ellison appear to have single gunshot wounds to the heart.
In Irene Ellison's room, they find that her hands and wrists are bound behind her back with an electrical cord.
You're talking about a 78-year-old woman.
But nothing can prepare investigators for the scene awaiting them in Carissa's room.
Could be a home invasion gone wrong.
The crime scene was unreal. There was so much blood on Carissa's scene, more so than anyone else's.
What they found was her in her bed, partially wrapped in a blanket of some sort with a lot of blood everywhere.
As investigators continue to survey the horrific setting of the triple homicide, they can't help but ask themselves, who would commit such a wicked deed, and why?
Naturally, one question the police had is, are they dealing with a double murder-suicide?
But as police search the home, they find no sign of a handgun near any of their victims. What they do note, however, is a distinct aroma in the air.
You smell that?
Yeah, I smell that.
One of the first things that they made mention of was a heavy, strong smell of Clorox.
We got something here.
I don't think it was uncommon to have bleach in the house because Irene was a very clean person. What was uncommon is the fact that the bleach was strewn about the house and that it was staining the carpet in different areas.
Bleach suggests that the killer attempted to wash away any potential evidence that he might have left behind.
The crime scene team looked all around the home and was able to see a bottle of bleach in the trash can.
And when investigators open the bottle of bleach, they notice the presence of bubbles.
Seeing the bubbles suggested that the bleach bottle had been used recently.
You can assume that someone's trying to clean something up, and outside of cleaning something up, they're also degrading that DNA that they're wiping up with it.
But who had the time and opportunity to clean up the scene? To answer that question, detectives turn to the families. They begin with Carissa's brother, Kelvin Ellison.
I'm sorry for your loss. I know it's hard, but we got to talk about what happened here tonight. We're going to need you to come to the station and make a formal statement.
I understand, Detective. Whatever you need me to do, I'll be glad to help.
As officers transfer Kelvin to the station, detectives begin notifying the rest of the families. The news is more than anyone can bear.
My brother said, Daddy died. I was like, okay, I'm thinking natural causes. But then he said, Daddy got murdered. I just immediately broke down. I couldn't contain myself.
It kind of tore my heart out of my chest. It took a lot of life out of me when I found out about what happened.
While detectives are on the phone with Brian's family, Brian's children reveal their own suspicions about who may have killed their father.
My dad got along real good with all the family, but just Carissa's brother, they always had their confrontation.
Every time that he would come in the house, the brother would get into it with Carissa and his mom.
What's up, man?
What's happening? Nothing, work. There's all these guys in here, man.
Well, just some friends, you know?
I think you and your friends need to find another place to play, man.
Kelvin. Carissa's brother did not like a lot of traffic in his mother's home, and it had some problems with some men that had come around.
He was making the living situation for my dad over there pure hell.
Carissa's brother felt like if his sister was going to entertain these men or be friends with them, they should do it somewhere else.
Why does every time he in here, he act like this is his place? I don't like it, Carissa.
We thought maybe, okay, he just got fed up with my dad being there and Miss Irene, and Carissa sided with my dad, and that upset him, and it just made him go off or whatever. So that's what we were thinking at the time.
Detectives begin to wonder, could Carissa's grieving brother really be involved in the triple homicide after all?
The brother obviously had access to that home, so naturally they would look to him.
As police prepare to sit down with Kelvin about the events of the night, no one knows if he will take them one step closer to the truth or deeper into the shadows.
It just was like a scene out of a movie or something.
In the midnight hours of July 18, 2013, detectives in Shreveport, Louisiana are trying to piece together the events surrounding the tragic deaths of 78-year-old Irene Ellison, her daughter, 41-year-old Carissa Ellison, and Carissa's boyfriend, 58-year-old Brian Wilson. In the aftermath of the slayings, investigators learned that Carissa's brother, Kelvin, had been fighting with his family over the fact that Brian Wilson was living with them.
Carissa's brother was a possible suspect. Sometimes you have family members who can't get along.
He was the one who placed the 911 call. So it was like they gave him time to commit the murder, come up with an alibi, act like he was all worried and everything.
While police continue scouring the crime scene, investigators sit down with Kelvin.
Look, we need you to walk us through your day. Can you do that?
Yeah, sure.
Carissa's brother tells the detectives, I woke up that day like a normal day. I went to work. I worked 2 jobs. It's very normal for me to go to my first job, come home, check on mama, make sure everything's okay.
Kelvin tells investigators that he left his mother's house around 6 p.m. to go to his second job. Afterwards, a coworker agreed to drive him home.
He's catching a ride with one of his coworkers, and he purchases beer and cigarettes at a convenience store.
When he returned home, he discovered that normally the mother would have the porch light on, but on this particular day, the porch light was off.
He also noticed that the side door that he goes through wasn't locked. It opened right up when he went in. So when he goes in, he's already suspicious of what's going on.
That's when Kelvin says he discovered the unimaginable carnage.
So you live in the home with the 3 victims, correct?
Brian ain't living there. He just stayed there.
Does anyone else live in their home?
Yeah, Carissa kids stay there, but they currently with her father for the summer.
Okay, I know it's been a hard night, but we're gonna need to confirm some things. So can you give us the numbers of your coworkers and the names of your coworkers and the name of the convenience store you stopped by?
Meanwhile, crime scene investigators make a discovery that gives everyone pause about Kelvin's story.
During the investigation, they found drugs in Carissa's brother's room.
Brother had some run-ins with the law.
Carissa's brother doesn't have a perfect history and had some problems with drugs.
His mother and him had a lot of friction as far as his behavior on account of his drug use.
Many times when drugs are present, that causes people to act violently.
Kelvin, You haven't been totally honest with us. We found the cocaine in the bedroom.
Yes, man.
Have you had any drugs today?
No, nothing like that, man. I've been at work all day. Look, I told y'all that. Look, you gotta understand, man, I would never hurt my mother or Carissa. Not one single hair. Look, I told y'all I was at work. Y'all don't believe me? Y'all can check with my coworkers. Heck, if you can even go to the convenience store and ask them, they'll confirm everything I'm telling you. And they'll tell you I'm telling the truth.
At the convenience store, they were able to find surveillance footage and to actually see Carissa Ellison's brother in the store purchasing items, just as he stated, beer and cigarettes.
Investigators spoke with co-workers of Carissa's brother. He worked the evening job, so everything that he said was true, and his time was accounted for.
People can be great actors, but that wasn't acting. I mean, it was very apparent to the officers, this person is devastated by what he has seen in this home.
However, detectives can't help but wonder, could this triple homicide still be drug-related?
This could have been a drug deal gone bad, where it just so happened that the 3 innocent bystanders in the house were slain because of some issue that maybe Carissa's brother may have had with other people that are involved in drugs.
Maybe this person had been in the Ellison home before, which would account for the lack of evidence of a break-in. Or maybe they slipped in through an unlocked door.
Do you owe any money to anyone for drugs?
Or maybe you ripped off someone and they take revenge.
No, nothing like that. Why y'all asking me all these questions, man? Look, all this is because of Brian, not me.
Police looked at Brian Wilson himself as someone who might have brought in an unsavory element to an otherwise peaceful home.
Brian, he was incarcerated. He'd been released. What happened while he was in jail? What happened with his lifestyle? Could have been someone there trying to get a vendetta against Brian.
Everybody was looking at it like it was someone that he knew, that it was something that had trickled down to him, that maybe he owed somebody some money.
While Shreveport police continue to look into ghosts from Brian and Kelvin's pasts, investigators receive word that the autopsies are complete, but the findings are not what they expect.
It was someone who had a grudge. This is a deliberate act that you want them dead. You want to make sure that they're dead.
Less than 24 hours after the bodies of Carissa Ellison, Irene Ellison, and Brian Wilson were found inside their Shreveport, Louisiana home, detectives still suspect drugs may have played a role in their murders. Now, investigators have received word that the victims' autopsies are complete, but the findings are much different than anticipated.
When you walk into a crime scene, there's so much blood present. You're not really able to determine how this happened. It's up to the pathologist to really determine how that person was killed.
Apparently, the victims died from stab wounds, not from gunshot wounds.
It was a shocker. We had gone a good 12 to 14 hours thinking that it was gun violence.
News of the stabbings changes the nature of the murders and raises another chilling possibility.
Shootings, okay, yeah, that's kind of random, but when you take the time to stab people, that's personal.
While 78-year-old Irene had not been able to put up a fight, defensive wounds found on Brian Wilson's hands and arms indicate that he had struggled against his assailant before succumbing to his injuries.
He was fighting. He wanted to live. He really was trying to save Carissa and her mom.
They noticed that he had something under his fingernails, and so they were able to scrape them to see if there was any sort of DNA evidence.
While Irene and Brian each received a single stab wound to the heart, Carissa's injuries are even more grim.
Carissa got it the worst of everyone.
Carissa Ellison has multiple stab wounds to her neck, chest, and back, and obviously she has an extreme amount, more than the other 2 victims in this case.
It was obvious that she bore the brunt of the killer's outrage.
Now suspecting Carissa may have been the killer's intended target, investigators begin interviewing neighbors in the hopes of learning who may have frequented the Ellison home.
Excuse me, sir. Shreveport PD, do you mind if we ask you a few questions?
No, go ahead.
Do you know the Ellisons?
Yeah, I know him pretty well. My wife's good friends with Carissa.
Detectives determined that Carissa had a few male friends. They didn't always know the extent of the relationships, but they did know that Carissa had male friends.
Yeah, there were always a few men hanging around. I guess she was pretty popular.
Do you remember any in particular?
You know, there was this one. It was a cab driver. He was a real nice fella. He was always helping Miss Irene around the house. He lived out back in the shed for a little while. I think his name was Tommy.
One of the individuals that was mentioned to the police was Tommy Lee Wilson.
When was the last time you saw Tommy?
Well, maybe a few weeks back.
The news that Tommy Lee Wilson had allegedly visited the Ellison home within the past few weeks piques detectives' interest. On July 22nd, detectives sit down with the 57-year-old cab driver for an interview.
We'd like to speak with you regarding Clarissa Ellison.
Yeah, I read about it in the paper. It nearly broke my heart in two.
We hear you were close to Carissa and her family.
Sure. I lived in the back of their house for a while. I mean, that was until Clarissa's man got out of prison.
Tommy Lee Wilson told detectives that he had never had any interaction with Brian Wilson and that some time had passed since he had even been to Miss Irene's home.
Where were you on the night of July 18th?
Man, my brother's been sick. He's been in the hospital. I was there with him by his side from July 15th through July 19th. But I want to help y'all out. I mean, I love Carissa. She confided in me. She told me she was having some real problems with a guy, that he wouldn't leave her alone.
He chose to give them information that would help them in their investigation and actually gave names to police officers.
Tommy tells detectives that Carissa had been seeing another man behind Brian's back while he was incarcerated. That man's name was Daniel Powell.
Carissa told me that Daniel was real jealous of her relationship with Brian, especially after they hooked back up.
He was insinuating that, this other boyfriend that she's had, you need to look at him. He possibly, could be the person that killed her because he's jealous.
Tommy's statement to detectives raises a red flag. Could Daniel Powell be the man they're looking for? After collecting samples of Tommy's DNA, detectives track down Daniel and bring him in for an interview.
We need to speak with you about your relationship with Carissa Ellison.
We should talk on the phone every now and then, but, it's been a while since I've seen her.
Where were you on the night of July 18th?
I was at work.
Daniel provides police with his co-workers' names and numbers. And like Tommy Lee Wilson, he also agrees to submit a DNA sample.
At this point, Daniel is certainly a person of interest, but they have nothing to hold him on, so they have to let him go.
Investigators have to wonder, have they just cut loose an innocent man or a cold-blooded killer? As they're about to find out, desire and passion sometimes make strange bedfellows.
That was no ordinary shed. That was a place for intimate secrets.
Detectives investigating the triple homicide of Carissa Ellison, Irene Ellison, and Brian Wilson in Shreveport, Louisiana, are only certain of one thing. 41-year-old Carissa Ellison was the killer's key target.
Killer obviously had a particularly strong hatred toward Carissa.
So far, detectives have interviewed Tommy Lee Wilson, a family friend of Carissa and her mother, as well as a man Tommy claims had a relationship with Carissa, Daniel Powell. While both men have professed their innocence, a new piece of evidence is about to surface that could provide a crucial clue to the killer's identity.
During the crime scene investigation, they recovered a bloody produce bag from the trash can.
The plastic produce bag appeared to have a palm print on it.
It's not just a palm print on this bag. This is a palm print in Carissa's blood. Carissa would have had to have been killed, and she would have had to have bled, and he would have had to put his hand on her blood, then touch that bag.
While investigators wait for a possible match on the palm print, they continue canvassing the Ellisons' neighborhood in the hopes of learning new information. It's a move that soon pays dividends.
Hey, sir, how you doing?
Fine, how are you?
You mind if we ask you a few questions?
No, I don't mind at all.
Thank you very much. Do you know the Ellisons across the street?
Yeah, I know the Ellisons.
Have you seen anything strange or anything unusual going on over there lately?
Well, actually, I had seen a man sitting in a car looking at the Ellisons' house.
How long has that been going on?
It's been going on about a few weeks now.
There was what's described as like a drive-up area where you can drive into the cemetery and just park. And the vantage point from that position in the cemetery is directly in the direction of the Ellison home.
It's very creepy to think that someone is stalking you from across the street in a cemetery, of all places.
But just who was this mystery man seen spying on Carissa and her family? As detectives dive into this question, they receive a surprise visit at the police station.
Hi, I'm Gwendolyn Myers. I need to speak with the detectives regarding the Ellison murders.
Come on in, have a seat.
Thank you.
She was a good friend of Carissa's, and she knew of a confrontation between Carissa's brother and an ex-boyfriend that she thought would be relevant to the investigation.
The brother actually had a confrontation with an ex-boyfriend who he believed was stalking his sister. And I believe he told him to leave the neighborhood.
Would this ex-boyfriend be Daniel Powell?
Oh no, this was Tommy Lee Wilson.
The very man that purported to be a close friend of the Ellisons had in fact had a relationship with Carissa.
She knew that Tommy and Carissa dated, and she would see Tommy bringing her to and from work.
According to Gwendolyn, the relationship began when Carissa's boyfriend, Brian, was doing his one-year stint in prison.
It was during this time that Tommy had helped construct this shed in the back of Carissa's home and had even lived there for a while.
This shed effectively became Carissa and Tommy's love nest.
Inside those walls, Carissa and Tommy's passions ran wild. But Gwendolyn says as the months ticked down to Brian's release date, Carissa had an epiphany.
Carissa realized that she still had feelings for Brian and that she wanted to rekindle the relationship when he was released from prison.
Tommy.
Gwendolyn says it was just days before Brian's release when Carissa broke the news to Tommy.
I just want to let you know that my ex-boyfriend is getting out of prison, and I still have feelings for him. And he's gonna need a place to stay.
I understand. I can move back in with my brother.
Okay. I hope we can stay friends.
Of course.
Gwendolyn states when Tommy moved off the property, Brian moved right in. Then, about 6 months after Brian's release, Carissa and Brian's passionate reunion came to an abrupt end.
Tommy literally cut the cord that supplied power to the shed, in turn basically denying Brian, all the comforts of a home that Tommy himself built.
And it's at this point, the stalking begins.
The news of Tommy Lee Wilson's ongoing infatuation with Carissa is troubling for detectives. And there's still the issue of his alibi.
Police had questioned Tommy on his whereabouts. He claimed that he was visiting his brother in the hospital.
The detectives actually spoke with Tommy Lee Wilson's brother and asked him about the time frame that all of this took place, as well as Tommy Lee Wilson's whereabouts.
Detectives determined that he was there, he left, and didn't return until after 9:30. That absolutely left him enough time to commit the crime.
But it's what Gwendolyn says next that really grabs the detective's attention.
Not too long after the murders, Gwendolyn ran into Tommy and talked to him about what happened.
During this conversation with Tommy, Tommy seems saddened as well. He seems affected by it, but he's also offering really intimate details about the bodies. This is information that was not leaked to the media. No one's ever heard of this. The fact that he was able to give intimate details to her caught her not only off guard, but scared her.
And that's not the only part of Gwendolyn's conversation with Tommy that raises a red flag with police.
When she referred to Brian Wilson as Carissa's boyfriend, Tommy Wilson became very, very upset.
His demeanor completely changes in his attitude. And the way he reacted made her kind of, take a step back.
Armed with a possible motive, detectives run a background check on Tommy Lee Wilson.
During this investigation, when Tommy Lee Wilson becomes a principal suspect, they of course do research on him.
Tommy turned out to have a history of violence.
3 felony convictions, 1 for aggravated rape one for simple escape and one for simple burglary.
Detectives are now all but convinced that Tommy Lee Wilson is their killer, especially when they receive word from Daniel Powell's coworkers.
You had an alibi, and his alibi checked out.
Daniel Powell wasn't near the home at the time of the murders. He was at work. He was completely ruled out.
Investigators feel they're one step closer to unraveling this shocking case. But the next piece of evidence may be the most important of them all.
I think he thought that he covered his tracks, but he didn't.
A week after a triple homicide rocked the city of Shreveport, Louisiana, detectives have learned two tantalizing pieces of information about Carissa Ellison's former flame, Tommy Lee Wilson.
First, there were allegations that Tommy had been stalking Carissa for weeks prior to the homicide. And second, Carissa's friend and coworker, Gwendolyn, told detectives that Tommy had shared gory details of the crime with her, details that were never leaked to the media.
Detectives are quickly able to realize that Tommy Lee Wilson's story is not adding up.
But despite strong circumstantial evidence pointing to Tommy's involvement, investigators need another shoe to drop before they make an arrest.
The DNA results could make or break this case.
Michelle Verana with North Louisiana Criminalistics Laboratory is tasked with analyzing the evidence. First, there was the suspicious knife that had been recovered from the Ellisons' kitchen. Detectives believed this might well be the murder weapon.
Investigators saw that knife was out of place, and they certainly collected it.
So I swabbed the blade, swabbed the handles. Now with all of those swabs, I found no amplifiable human DNA on them, or nothing that I tested could we say was the murder weapon.
But that wasn't all the test revealed.
I had tested the presumptive positives that I had gotten for blood on many items of evidence, and then had tested the fingernail scrapings from Brian Wilson.
There were substances recovered under Brian Wilson's fingernails that indicated that he had been involved in a struggle prior to his death. Investigators hoped that Brian had taken a piece of his killer with him.
So the fingernail scrapings were consistent with being a mixture of two individuals. The minor contributor was consistent with being Brian Wilson, which is expected because that DNA was taken directly from him. The major contributor was an unknown profile that needed to be compared to the reference samples that had been submitted.
Michelle Verana compares the reference samples and gets a match.
The major contributor in the mixture was consistent with the profile of Tommy Wilson. There was some sort of a struggle, and somehow Brian Wilson either scratched or did something that allowed him to get Tommy Wilson's DNA under his fingernails.
As for the bloody palm print found in the Ellisons' trash, testing also links it to one individual.
In this instance, Tommy Wilson touched the liquid blood and left his print behind.
Armed with the new evidence, investigators move swiftly.
Tommy Lee Wilson was arrested on July 26, 2013 on 3 counts of second-degree murder, and he was later indicted for 3 counts of first-degree murder.
I was relieved to find that he had been arrested. We were relieved, that he was off the streets because everybody was in shock. I think that allowed everybody in the Moortown neighborhood to be able to sleep better at night, that knowing this man was off the street.
It was a sign of relief. We didn't have to watch over our shoulder anymore now that they had to kill her.
On July 7th, 2015, almost 2 years after the bloody triple murder, Tommy Lee Wilson's trial gets underway.
Prosecutors told the jury that this was a case of basically jealous rage, and that Tommy was obsessed with Carissa, and that he stalked her and eventually killed her and her family.
Tommy Wilson was feeling displaced because, here you are, you're the guy that Carissa's dating, and then when my dad comes back on the scene, you're out the picture.
He probably saw Brian as a replacement for him. He's literally living in the shed that he built, that Tommy built.
Lead prosecutor Gia Prudhomme puts forth her theory of events.
Tommy Lee Wilson had been watching Carissa. He's familiar with the family. He knows their comings and goings. He knows when Carissa's brother goes to work. He watched and waited until he felt like people were getting into bed. He entered the home, and I believe that he found Carissa and Brian in the living area.
At that point, prosecutors believe Tommy went to attack Brian and they got into a scuffle. Carissa runs out of fear and Tommy ultimately stabs Brian.
He then goes after Carissa and attacks. He starts stabbing her, and by this time, Irene is alerted. She hears the noise, goes to check it out, and he forces her back into the bedroom.
And she's trying to get away from him while he's trying to, bound her hands. He hits her on her head. He ties her and stabs her and kills her because she's the only witness now.
That's natural to be jealous like that. But to be jealous and lash out like that to where you have to force entry into a house and murder 3 people, I think that's... Goes back to saying it's heartless, very heartless.
The most powerful evidence that was presented was the bloody palm print, the blood belonging to Carissa, and the fact that the palm print was that of Tommy Wilson. And of course, coming close to that would be the DNA evidence found under the nails of Brian Wilson.
I don't think that was by chance that my dad ended up with his skin or his nails. I think that my dad calculated in his mind that, if I'm gonna die today, you're gonna go to jail. And I really am proud of my dad for doing that.
Tommy's defense team, however, has a different take on the state's evidence.
Well, it seemed like a shotgun approach for the defense during certain parts of the trial. Why his handprint was on the bag. He brought groceries to them sometimes. What he was doing in the house, why his DNA was there, was because he actually was there.
Tommy had lived in the shed himself before. Brian Wilson had somehow picked up that DNA while he was living in the shed.
Then on July 8th, 2015, Tommy Lee Wilson decides to take the stand himself.
We were looking at him like, you dummy. I actually think he was advised not to take the stand.
Tommy Wilson's story was, I wasn't there, I had nothing to do with this.
During the cross-examination of Tommy Lee Wilson, he confused himself and couldn't even keep up with the answers he had formally given.
I think he thought that he was going to be able to finagle his way out of it. But the more he talked, the more he made himself look guilty. I think everybody was more amazed with the fact that maybe he had rehearsed it so many times in his head that he actually believed it.
Following closing arguments, the jury retires to deliberate Tommy's fate.
I want to say the jury took maybe about an hour, if that long.
Verdict was guilty. 3 counts, first-degree murder.
He was given life in prison without the benefit of probation, parole, or suspension of sentence.
However, Tommy's guilty verdict only provides the victims' 2 families with half of the closure they need to make peace.
It made me feel real angry, that you won't, even though all this evidence is stacked up against you, you still won't admit or apologize or, at least say something to the family. I'm sorry that this happened. We didn't get any of that.
As for the events that culminated in this tragedy, it serves as a bitter reminder how love can bring out the best and worst in all of us.
It's a message to be given to any young woman that this too could happen to you if we are not careful.
Check out the background, the history of the individual, and if they show any signs of abuse, then you should walk away or get assistance from the appropriate authorities.
I mean, you just never know what somebody is thinking. Like, you never know how people deal with rejection. Some people move on and some people just can't let go. In this case, Tommy Wilson couldn't let go. And it was like, if I can't have you, nobody can. And he made sure of that.
There are so many people that were affected and remain affected by the Senseless Act. Brian's kids lost their father that day. Carissa's children lost their mother and their grandmother that day.
As for Carissa's brother, he not only lost his sister and his mother, but the memory of that horrific day is one that will not soon fade.
The thing that I remember most was that 911 call that the son placed. I'm a son, I love my mother very much. It put me in his shoes, and it was extremely sad to hear. I remember that striking me. I was really sad about that.
They were two people from different sides of the tracks who fell madly in love.
There was just this chemistry between them that neither of them could ignore.
He seemed really protective of her.
Together, their potential seemed limitless.
She was a straight-A student, really could have gone to any college she wanted to, and after a traumatic upbringing, he was finally on the right path.
But on a cold winter night, their romance was snuffed out in horrific fashion.
We hear raised voices. Bitch, 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 at least 4 times. So there's an altercation going on in that van.
There was a visceral reaction that something like this happened to someone with so much promise.
The evidence started pointing in ways that shocked even the police.
A series of surprising dead ends and shocking revelations would leave police struggling to understand what really happened.
There have been rumors that have floated around it was something sexual, and it illustrates this pattern that something's off with him.
He arrives, he is upset, saying, I'm probably going to prison tonight.
This completely shattered both their lives. There's all this pain that is unending.
1 a.m., January 13th, 2009. A snowstorm is swirling in Ypsilanti, Michigan, a blue-collar community a couple miles east of the college town of Ann Arbor, Michigan.
It was a very heavy snowfall. There was a heavy snow that night.
Emergency dispatchers have been bombarded with reports of traffic accidents. But the call that just came in from resident Anthony Thompson has nothing to do with the inclement weather.
Ambulance fire emergency, what's your address?
I'm on Congress. I'm just driving down the street going home, and there's a lady laying here, and her head is busted open.
She was laying on her back. She had a winter coat on. It was kind of spread open. The caller could see that she was covered in blood. There were pieces of her personal items spread kind of around her.
The woman was found just outside of one of the city's parks.
Okay, is she able to respond to you at all?
I don't know. She's reaching up at the sky, at the air now.
Okay, can you talk to her and see if she can respond to you? Just say, ma'am, can you hear me?
Excuse me, can you hear me? Can you hear me? She's just reaching her, waving her arm like, I don't think she can hear me.
She needs help.
In a matter of minutes, Ypsilanti police officers Robert Murphy and Brooke Mullender arrive on the scene.
That location is actually only a couple blocks from our police department, and we were able to respond pretty quickly. We immediately went up to the victim, tried to assess her needs. The victim couldn't talk. She was kind of making some noises.
I could see the injury to her forehead. The trauma was severe.
She had exposed brain matter.
Our initial thoughts were that she had suffered a gunshot wound to the head.
Murphy to dispatch. I need an ambulance right away at the park.
Myself and the other officer kind of grabbed her hand and just talked to her to give her some kind of feeling of safety.
Help is on the way.
She was still conscious, but again, she couldn't communicate verbally. She was making sounds, moving her arms around.
Not only is the woman unable to communicate, she apparently has no license or identification.
There wasn't a wallet or a purse with an ID, so at this time, she was a Jane Doe to us.
At 1:20 a.m., EMTs arrive and rush the unidentified woman to the hospital. With the snowstorm intensifying, Ypsilanti police must work quick to document the scene.
It had been snowing on and off for the past few hours, but it was about to get a lot worse.
If we didn't immediately try to get photos with the evidence, we were going to lose it.
Officer Mullender, she's an evidence technician. She started just taking pictures as quickly as she could.
With no sign of a murder weapon or shell casings left behind, police brainstorm about a possible motive for the crime.
We did not see a purse or a wallet or any type of phone, so it did cross our mind that it could be a robbery.
That theory gains traction when Officer Mullender spots something in the snow a few feet from where the body was initially discovered.
Hey guys, come here, look at this.
There were some footprints in the snow.
There's a set of footprints that lead right here to where the body was lying. And then there's just one set that leads out of here to the recreational park.
Somebody was definitely in a hurry to get out of here.
You could see where they were almost like sliding, that the person was moving quick.
As officers follow the tracks into the park, they make another discovery.
We found a set of blue Converse high-top tennis shoes, large, size 10, so a man's.
And the unusual skid mark pattern in the footprints suggests another theory about the individual who'd been wearing them.
Whoever was wearing them had slid their foot in, so it would be easy to drag it as you're leaving. It's believed suspect had actually run out of his shoes, running away from the scene.
The footsteps continued, and there were toe prints in the snow.
Investigators follow the bare footprints, which dead end right in front of a residence about a block west of the park.
We had reason to believe that the suspect had went into that house and could still be in that home.
He could be in there.
Suspect is blamed armed and dangerous. We are requesting immediate backup.
After radioing for backup, a team of officers arrives and prepares to move in. But what would they find inside?
This was a real life or death situation. They didn't know what they were going to walk into.
On a cold January night in 2009, police in the Detroit suburb of Ypsilanti, Michigan, are investigating a bizarre and gruesome crime.
There was a snowstorm that night, and the police were probably expecting a few accidents. But what they weren't expecting to find was an unidentified woman gravely injured, lying in the snow just outside of one of the city's parks.
Based on the extent of her injuries, we believe that it was a gunshot wound to her forehead.
After discovering a pair of sneakers, police follow a trail of footprints approximately 200 yards to a house on Congress Street, where a team of officers prepares to descend on a potential murder suspect.
They had reason to believe that an armed man may be possibly hiding outside a home after he violently attacked a woman outside of a local park.
But as officers enter the house and cautiously move from room to room, it becomes clear there's no one else inside.
We cleared the house and we called inside.
The house was empty. The suspect was not there.
Standing outside, police wonder where this mystery man could be and what connection he had to the attack on the unidentified young woman. As they ponder this question, a young man emerges from the shadows.
Hey, I need to talk to someone right now. A young man walks up to them and interrupts things. He's clearly upset and acting erratically. He seems confused as to what's going on.
Sir, stay right where you are and keep your hands where we can see him. This is an active police operation.
My God, this is bad.
He said, you guys are probably going to want to talk to me because I saw some things.
He tells them, I have information that you probably would want to know about. Almost kind of braggadocious, very odd character. He said, hey, you're going to want to talk to me about what happened.
Making it even stranger, he wasn't even dressed for the weather.
He's not wearing a coat or a lot of clothes, which is very suspicious when you're living or dealing with any kind of Michigan weather.
Sergeant Robert Murphy escorts the young man to his patrol car and presses him for more information.
It's a natural assumption to think that the footsteps they'd been chasing belonged to this guy.
I had the back door open. I was standing outside. I had him sitting inside, and we were having a conversation. He was ramped up and confused of what was going on.
What's your name, son? No, not until you tell me who you just took away in that ambulance.
His behavior continued to be very erratic. Officer Murphy wasn't sure if the kid was on drugs, or he was traumatized by something he saw, or maybe he was covering something up, or maybe a combination of all three.
Eventually, the young man calms down long enough to tell Officer Murphy his name.
I'm Jake Thomas.
Okay, Jake. Why don't you tell us exactly what you know about what happened to that girl in the street?
I think that might have been my girlfriend, Elena Jenkins.
Elena Jenkins and Jake Thomas were high school sweethearts from Ypsilanti. Elena remained a high school senior and Jake graduated, but they remained inseparable.
In fact, Jake tells police that he'd recently moved in with Elena and her mother.
They had plans to go to college together once Elena graduated. They had their whole lives ahead of them until they were blindsided by this horrific attack.
According to Jake, it all started at Elena's house around 11 p.m., shortly after Elena's mother had gone to bed.
Elena decided that she needed to turn in because she had school in the morning, and Jake decided to stay up.
Jake explains that Elena's mother had allowed another friend to briefly stay with them. His name is Dominic Oyorinde.
And he had a girlfriend that he would frequently go out with, Anna Marie List, who's also friends with Elena. And that night, Jake was waiting for him to come home.
Dominic had been staying with us for a few days, and that was cool, all right? But when he came home last night, there was definitely something wrong.
He said Dominic arrived and he seemed to be upset.
He was really frantic.
Are you all right, man?
Just give me the phone, man. I gotta call on her.
Dude, okay, just calm down. You're gonna wake up Elena. She's sleeping upstairs.
I'm gonna mess someone up.
Dude, seriously, you gotta keep it down.
Jake explains to Officer Murphy that Dominic believed someone had stolen his cell phone.
Dominic was from Detroit, and he had a pretty rough background.
The man lost his parents at such a young age, and Dominic grew up as a foster child. You can imagine how tough that can be.
He was able to land a job, but he couldn't keep the job unless he had a cell phone. If he would have lost that, it would have been catastrophic.
Dominic had been homeless for a really long time, and it was very hard for him. And all he wanted in the world was just to be stable and not constantly worry about where he was going to sleep or how he was going to eat.
Jake states that Dominic eventually got in touch with Anna, who, like Elena, is a senior at a local high school. Dominic asks Anna to come get him so she can help him track down his phone.
What's wrong?
It's gonna mess everything up for me, for us, everything.
Calm down.
Anna, she was studying. She had homework to do, but she dropped everything to come see him because she loved him.
I'm gonna mess this thief up, man. Like, ugh.
Don't be stupid. I'm coming over.
Jake tells Officer Murphy that at around 12:30 a.m., Anna List pulled up to Elena's home in her family's minivan, and that Dominic went outside to meet her.
From what he told me, he was looking out the window from inside of the house.
At some point, he hears Dominic shout at Anna, bitch, bitch, bitch. Then all of a sudden, he hears the sound of 2 doors slam. And he sees Dominic and Anna walking away.
Anna was pretty upset, so it appeared that she was walking up the street to cool off.
He assumed Dominic was coming into the home, so he unlocks the door.
But to Jake's surprise, Dominic doesn't come inside. Instead, he hops in the driver's seat of the List family van.
Dominic immediately gets inside, makes a 3-point turn, hits the curb, and flies down the street. He said it was at that point that he became very afraid. He runs upstairs, he wakes up his girlfriend.
Elena, you gotta wake up. Something's going on with Anna and Dominic. They got in this big fight, and Dominic just took her van.
Wait, where are they?
They're somewhere outside right now. Where are you going?
I'm going to go find them.
As Elena leaves to search for her friend, Jake stays behind.
So I just kept waiting for her, but she never came back.
You're telling me that's the last time you ever saw her?
Yes, sir.
Because he hadn't heard from his girlfriend Elena in some time, he'd assumed that she'd had some kind of encounter with the enraged Dominic.
Jake heard the sirens going off, and he runs outside to see what was going on.
That girl we found out in the snow. I think that's Elena.
On the surface, Jake's statement suggests his friend Dominic Oyorinde shot Elena after she tried to intervene in his and Anna's argument. But with no sign of Anna List or her family's minivan, police aren't so sure.
Police don't even know who Dominic or Anna are, or even if they're real people. They were speculating that maybe Jake was trying to hide his own involvement in the crime.
We were certainly suspicious because of the time of day, the footprints, and then he's the only one that's out there, and this may actually be the person who did it.
But before police can parse fact from fiction in Jake Thomas's statement, a vehicle rolls up to the scene, and a woman and her daughter emerge from the car. And what they have to say will reveal the victim's true identity and cast another dark cloud over an investigation that's already shrouded in mystery.
It was so shocking. I couldn't possibly even comprehend the situation fully at that point.
Police in Ypsilanti, Michigan are questioning Jake Thomas in the shooting of an unidentified young woman.
Jake thinks that the victim is Elena. He believes that Elena was shot when she tried to break up a fight between Dominic and Anna.
But before police can make full sense of Jake's claims, the interview is interrupted when a vehicle pulls up to the scene and a woman jumps out.
What are you doing here?
Is this your house?
Yes, it is. What's going on?
The police start to explain that a woman had been brutally assaulted just down the street, and Jake believes that the victim could have been her daughter, Elena.
That can't be.
And why is that?
The woman turns out to be Michelle Jenkins, who's actually the mother of Elena Jenkins.
She introduces the officer to Elena Jenkins, who is clearly alive and well.
After getting permission from Michelle, the officer proceeds to interview the teen.
What are you and your mom doing out here this late at
We're
night?
looking for my friend Anna. Is the girl that you found her?
The officers tell Elena a description of the young lady taken to the hospital. Elena was pretty sure that it was her, so she gave the officers additional physical description of the young lady that matched.
She identified her as Anna List.
Anna List was born in Hong Kong on January 28, 1991. From the get-go, it was clear her life would be anything but ordinary.
Anna was born in Hong Kong, but her family lineage is from all around the world, which made her pretty ethnically diverse.
She came from all accounts, a very loving family, had a lot of support and a lot of direction to get her on the path she was headed.
When Anna was young, the family emigrated to Ann Arbor, Michigan. It was here that Anna truly started to blossom.
Anna was a straight-A student. She was a gifted musician. She demonstrated talent in a lot of other artistic areas as well. She had unbound potential.
While Anna's promise seemed limitless, her enormous heart may well have been her biggest gift of all.
Everyone just had wonderful things to say about her.
She was always looking to help other people. She mentored other students in the area of music, and she was involved in several charities. She cared very much about her community.
And while working as a continuing education tutor during the summer of 2008, Anna met the young man that would change her life forever, Dominic Oyorinde.
Hi, are you Anna?
Hi, yes I am. Nice to meet you.
Dominic was 20 years old and he had just returned to school to get his GED.
A squared.
I know that
you
part.
know
I know that part.
something. Good.
Dominic was the kind of person that as soon as he entered a room, he was the only person anyone was looking at. He was the tall, black guy in a cutoff jacket on a skateboard, occasionally some sort of pet in his backpack.
Dominic was really into longboarding, and he would ride it around, everywhere. He also dressed really flamboyantly. He would wear just colors that other people wouldn't wear. He was a goofy guy. I mean, always cracking jokes. He had these little isms, and these Dominic-isms. Like, if somebody said, I want it, Dominic would be like, I want it all, brand new socks and drawers. And it was like this sing-song thing that he would do every time. And it would always crack everybody up.
I can't think of one person that actually didn't like him.
Anna proved no exception.
Pay attention.
Yeah.
Right?
Sorry, you just have cute eyes. No, back to this.
Yeah, okay. You're right. So,
She really was attracted to him, and he was attracted to her.
Though Anna and Dominic were immediately attracted to each other, their vastly different upbringings made them for an unlikely couple.
You have Anna from an affluent neighborhood in Ann Arbor.
She was coming from a nurtured environment, a sheltered environment.
Dominic, he grew up in the streets of Detroit.
His childhood was really traumatizing and emotionally stressful.
Well, they aged him out of the system when he turned 18. Said, here's $600 a month, pay your bills, get a job. I mean, and that's how they do it.
He had dropped out of school, and he was homeless on and off and unemployed.
Desperate to make a better life for himself, Dominic moved to Ann Arbor and enrolled in an adult education program.
Ann Arbor is, looked at as being a really safe place to live, good schools.
He really wanted to avoid some of the unsteady elements from his life, so he'd often couch surf at friends' houses that would provide a more positive surrounding for him.
Despite all their differences, like Anna, Dominic shared a strong commitment to helping people.
There were some kids that lived near where he used to live. My parents weren't really watching them, but because he'd been through the foster care system, he would go and bring them food and take care of them, do nice stuff for them. And he actually did that on a pretty regular basis.
As for Anna, she saw Dominic's potential as both a boyfriend and a positive member of society.
She was helping him try to get his life together, helping him try to get a job.
Anna was tutoring him for his GED. and also trying to convince him to apply to Washington Community College to perhaps better himself and further his life.
We all knew he was really smart and that he could be doing something really awesome with his life.
Something that the world might not have seen in Dominic, Anna did. When she looked into his eyes, she saw possibilities. Two of them ended up falling in love.
We can go to the skate park and then go to the movie.
So I guess you're saying we have a date tonight?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do it then. Because you're cute. That's it.
He was really happy about being with her, and he would say stuff like, she was out of his league and really awesome, and he seemed really protective of her.
They were from two totally different worlds. If Dominic was from the hood, Anna was his palace, his princess.
In December of 2008, the couple's devotion to each other began to pay dividends.
He finally got a job, and he was really excited.
He was working with a marketing street team, but needed a cell phone, and thankfully, Anna helped him with that. They were a couple working together for a better future.
But now, as officers speak with Elena Jenkins and confirm that the young woman fighting for her life at a local hospital is in fact Anna List, it's clear her and Dominic's future has been derailed.
At first, police thought it was Elena because Jake told them that it was Elena. But now it seems more likely that it was Anna, but they don't know who shot her and why.
Investigators are hopeful Elena Jenkins can shed light on Jake Thomas's initial statement. What she tells them largely corroborates Jake's story, but there are some key differences.
Jake's story was that he was inside the house when the argument between Anna and Dominic started.
Jake's girlfriend tells the police she could tell that he had been outside because his hands were so cold.
Elena tells police she was also confused by Jake's behavior after he woke her up.
He does some very odd things. After he wakes his girlfriend up, he says that he stays in the house, doesn't follow her outside.
She throws her clothes on and she runs outside in the snow to see what was going on, but Jake doesn't.
Elena states that with Jake unwilling to venture outside to search for Anna and Dominic, she woke her mother to assist her instead.
Are you coming with me, Mom?
I should probably search around here. I'll catch up with you, though.
Why would he let his girlfriend just run out there and not go behind her and see what was going on?
Did you actually see Dominic and Anna get into a fight earlier?
No, my boyfriend Jake just woke me up out of my sleep. I don't know.
Do you think Dominic would have hurt her?
No, I just don't think he'd be capable of something like that, no.
Elena indicates that while Dominic is prone to outbursts, he worships the ground that Anna walks on.
And though Elena stops short of implicating her boyfriend in the attack on Anna, she does reveal Jake has his own share of demons.
Jake has bipolar disorder and very erratic behavior. I don't know, somehow that made him weirdly cut off to the world.
Like Anna, Jake Thomas had been raised by financially successful parents and spent part of his childhood in Asia. But according to Elena, that's where the comparisons between Jake and Anna ended.
I mean, there have been rumors that have floated around about Jake, and there was some kind of issue at one of his old schools involving a female Chinese student. A lot of the rumors illustrate this pattern that something's off about Jake.
Given this information and Jake's bizarre behavior when initially questioned by police, detectives wonder if he's trying to pin the attack against Anna on his pal Dominic.
Was he trying to hide his involvement? Was he trying to implicate Dominic? And was he, in fact, actually the one who attacked Anna that night?
So think about it. If Jake did have something to do with it, who better to blame than the homeless kid with a troubled past?
It seems that something else could have been going on here. I mean, maybe a love triangle, or maybe just Jake being obsessed with Anna.
Investigators bring Jake Thomas down to the station for further questioning. They also continue their search for Dominic Oyerinde. But a shocking claim from Anna List's father is about to alter the course of the entire investigation.
She's a young woman that seemed to have a soft spot for troubled guys, and that caused some major problems.
These guys both have mental health issues. You got a question. Maybe it was one of these guys that did this to Anna.
In the early morning hours of January 13th, 2009, police in Ypsilanti, Michigan are trying to unravel the truth behind the shooting of an unknown victim they believe to be 17-year-old honor student Anna List. While Jake Thomas claims that his friend Dominic Oyorinde is responsible, police can't rule out that Jake may have committed the crime himself. But police will soon realize that not everything about the attack is cut and dried.
By the time detectives got back to the station with Jake, they received confirmation from the hospital that they were able to identify the victim from known medical records, and it was Anna List.
She had swelling of her brain. They had put her in a medically induced coma to try to see if she could heal at all.
Her injuries were very severe, even life-threatening.
But the attending physicians also give police some surprising information about Anna's injuries.
The neurosurgeon advised that the injury was not caused by a gunshot wound. It was actually caused by blunt force trauma.
Anna List was hit with some type of blunt object. They just don't know what.
This was definitely a game changer. Blunt force traumas are a little bit more intimate and brutal.
At first, they think that this is a robbery gone wrong, but now they think that this is something personal.
With that in mind, detectives begin another interrogation of Jake Thomas.
There seemed to be some inconsistencies in Jake's story.
So you say you were inside the house when you heard this argument between Dominic and Anna?
That's right.
Well, your girlfriend Elena says that your hands were cold when you woke her up.
Yeah, well, I know what I saw, okay?
Are you sure there's something you're not telling us? I mean, was there something between you and Anna?
No. Look, I don't know what happened to her, but I heard them fighting outside in the van.
While Jake continues to assert his innocence, Anna List's father arrives at St. Joseph Mercy Hospital, having been informed of the attack on his daughter.
The victim's father was clearly distraught. I couldn't even imagine what he was going through at that time.
It's not a good time. We can do this later.
No. I need to do this now. I knew something like this was going to happen to Anna.
According to Anna's father, she was a loving and caring young woman, but very naive as well.
So she was always helping people. But I don't think she understood the severity of the challenges facing those that she was helping.
Anna had a bit of a savior complex, having come from, an upper middle class environment and having had all the advantages.
Anna's father informs police that when his daughter told him she was dating a young man from the rough and tumble Detroit streets, he wasn't sure what to make of it. But after meeting Dominic, he quickly accepted the relationship. He also admits his daughter's stories about this young man's concern for her were touching.
Dom didn't want, his friends who partied and were irresponsible ever around his girlfriend because he didn't want any of his friends to be a bad influence or danger to her at all.
Sometimes desperate people do crazy things. You gotta be careful.
Anna had led a fairly sheltered life. Despite any concerns they had, they liked that Dominic opened Anna's eyes to another part of the world.
Stop acting like I'm totally naive.
Quit acting naive.
She was pretty sheltered and doesn't have any experience with crisis.
But according to Anna's father, an event took place 1 month earlier that darkened his opinion of Dominic.
Dad, I need help.
Honey, what is it?
She called her parents. She's upset. She's screaming.
Someone threw a brick at my car.
Who? Anna? Who?
Dominic.
The great relationship that they had started to go south.
Dominic had a short fuse emotionally.
He was increasingly demanding of her time, jealous of her friendships, and threatened her physically.
According to Anna's father, the reason Dominic threw the brick through their family's van window was simple. Anna had decided to put an end to the relationship.
I love you, but I don't think this is going to work.
What's that supposed to mean?
They were fighting a lot, and she had tried to break up with him.
Dom, where are you going?
He gets really upset.
You know what? Go to hell.
Dom,
As he's exiting the car, he grabs a brick.
what are you doing?
And he threw a brick at her car window, shattering the window.
Stop!
She's immediately afraid. She's upset. She drives off to a strip mall to get away from the scene.
Why would he do that? Why?
Stay there. I'm gonna come get you.
Anna's father tells police that while Anna initially reported the incident to police, she got cold feet when it came time to press charges. According to Mr. List, in the weeks that followed, he and Anna's mother tried to help their daughter move on. But Anna quickly drifted back to Dominic.
Anna, honey,
Yes.
we want to talk to you.
Sweetheart, we're worried about you.
It just pushed her closer to him.
Okay, you guys are totally overreacting.
You don't have to answer that, Anna.
Daddy is fine. I'm gonna go and take this outside.
Dom? Yeah, I can totally come and get you.
At a certain point, her parents just finally gave up and realized they weren't going to win the fight.
With Mr. List's statement, investigators are increasingly anxious to speak with Dominic Oyorinde to see if he, not Jake Thomas, may be behind the crime.
So if what Jake is saying is true, Dominic is probably rolling around in the List family van, which is technically stolen. And if he's not the killer, he probably knows who is.
It's more pressing than ever that authorities speak with Dominic Oyorinde.
That morning, police issue an APB for 20-year-old Dominic Oyorinde and the List family van. But as they try to determine whether or not Dominic was capable of committing such a violent crime, investigators are forced to ask some difficult questions. Questions that will leave the quiet community of Ann Arbor divided.
I don't think there's a real, true one answer of how to make sense of what happened.
Just hours after 17-year-old Anna List is found beaten to the brink of death in Ypsilanti, Michigan, police have questioned one possible suspect, Jake Thomas, and are on the hunt for another, Anna's missing boyfriend, Dominic Oyorinde.
They had reason to believe that Dominic had assaulted Anna that night.
At the very least, authorities believe Dominic is in possession of the List family minivan, the vehicle Anna had been driving just prior to being assaulted.
We knew that he was possibly in that vehicle. We had to be on the lookout for other police department agents for that vehicle.
As the search for the missing minivan continues, police begin questioning Dominic's friends about his possible whereabouts. Most of them express disbelief that he could be involved in such a heinous crime.
When I heard about the incident, I couldn't possibly have believed that was him.
I wouldn't portray him as a violent person. Dominic's a really fun-loving person.
But as investigators dig deeper, a more complex portrait of Dominic begins to emerge.
So what can you tell us about Dominic?
Dominic, he's a really great guy. He is.
Just what?
He's had a really hard time, you know?
I don't know exactly what his mental health diagnosis is, but I do know that he has mental problems from a lot of the stuff that's happened to him.
He was going to lots of different therapists over the years.
He was a pretty paranoid person. He had endured years of abuse while being raised in the foster care system. It can cause all kinds of fears of abandonment and really just a general lack of trust.
Friends and loved ones say the situation was so bad that Dominic had been known to take antipsychotics to control his demons. But when the pain became too much, Dominic sometimes added alcohol and recreational drugs to the mix.
I can imagine that a combination of anti-psych meds, recreational drugs, probably alcohol, that would be hard to control a level of sanity with that.
And some, like Dominic's ex-roommate Marie, say they had seen Dominic cross a terrifying line on at least one occasion.
I was in the bathtub, and he was freaking out, and I was just like, I'm just gonna go deal with this. And there was all this calamity outside with him.
You're racist!
According to Marie, as she entered the living room to see what the commotion was about, Dominic confronted her about an ironic, politically charged piece of art a friend had made her.
I just had like this picture that one of my friends drew that had a swastika on it, and he was upset about that. And he was like, you're racist.
You mentioned you were racist.
No, it's nothing. I'm not.
Why would you have that here then?
Calm down. The artwork mocked swastikas and Nazis, but Dominic was messed up on drugs. He didn't see it that way. All he saw was rage, blind rage, against his roommate.
He freaked out. He actually tried to strangle me. And I could see that he wasn't really himself. You just look, and there's someone else there.
So this sounds like disassociation. In this mental state, a person isn't necessarily consciously aware of what's going on. It's sort of a survival mechanism for people who've experienced trauma, but it can also be very dangerous for those close to the person.
Luckily for Marie, Dominic finally snapped back to reality.
What the hell?
He was distracted because I wasn't wearing anything.
Put some clothes on.
And confused enough that he was like, this is weird, and left.
For investigators, Marie's statement, combined with the details of his earlier attack on Anna's family van, moves Dominic Oyorinde to the top of the suspect list.
While Jake Thomas behaved erratically and the story he told had some oddities about it, he really didn't have the same signs of violence that Dominic had in his past.
I think he cared about her, but Dominic is just a really fearful person, and all that stuff kind of coalesced.
He probably just blacked out like he did with me, but he didn't get back to reality.
If Dominic is as unbalanced as his friends believe, the need to find him is more pressing than ever. Thankfully, less than 24 hours later, police in Detroit spot a vehicle that matches the description of the stolen minivan. They run the plates and get a hit.
2 patrol officers had spotted the List family van and pulled it over.
Detroit police found the van, and it was being driven by Dominic.
Though Dominic is taken into custody without incident, when he's transferred to Ypsilanti police for questioning, the cooperation comes to a halt.
He chose to enforce his Miranda rights and decided not to make a statement.
Later that day, Dominic Oyorinde is charged with carjacking and assault with the intent to commit murder.
He was held on a $2 million cash bond.
It was a huge relief that he was off the street, but everybody was holding their breath for Anna.
I was relieved. It's a lot of work to try to track these things down, and if you can resolve it for the victims' families, it's a huge load off.
While justice seems within reach, another development was about to ratchet up the stakes even more. And they're beyond anyone's worst imaginations.
What happened was a tragedy beyond words.
2 days after allegedly assaulting his girlfriend, Anna List, in a late-night rage, Dominic Oyorinde is behind bars in Ypsilanti, Michigan.
Dominic was charged with assault with the intent to commit murder.
With Anna still fighting for her life, support floods in from surrounding communities.
There were numerous people in prayers for Anna, hoping that she could perhaps make a miraculous recovery.
In these difficult days, one frequent visitor to Anna's hospital room is responding officer Brooke Mullender.
I would periodically go up to the hospital and try to check on her, see if she was having any kind of improvements.
In fact, Officer Mullender discovered she and Anna shared a personal connection prior to the attack.
When I found the victim, I didn't recognize her, but I met her and her family just a few weeks before, after she was involved in a domestic violence case with Dominic. So obviously it felt a little bit closer to me. When I took this case, I never thought that I would ever find her in the position that she was. But a domestic violence relationship can escalate. That's why you have to take them all with high importance.
But despite round-the-clock medical care, Anna List never recovers from her injuries.
We had learned that Anna was not going to be getting better.
She was declared brain dead at that point.
On January 19th, 2009, Anna's family makes the heart-wrenching choice to remove her from life support.
This was a very painful decision.
News of Anna's death brings an outpouring of grief from community members and law enforcement officers alike.
She was so smart. She had such a bright future. It's just such a tragically sad story.
With Anna's passing, prosecutors upped the charges against Dominic Oyorinde.
So now it goes from being an assault to being a murder case.
While the prosecution prepares for trial, Ypsilanti police continue building their case against Dominic. They start with the potential murder weapon.
Anna's father told us he had tools in that van and was missing a hammer. And actually, he was able to describe the hammer, where he obtained it, and there were items, a sticker, that made it unique.
When temperatures rise unexpectedly in February and the snow begins to melt, detectives return to the scene of the crime to search for the missing hammer.
They actually found the claw-type hammer sticking out from what snow was left.
The hammer fits the description provided by Anna List's father.
Everything matched up. There's thousands of hammers out there, so it was a very important piece.
In addition to matching the description provided by Anna List's father, the hammer contains other critical evidence.
On the hammer, they could see there's blood.
Investigators send the hammer to the Michigan State Police lab for processing, along with the shoes found in the snow the night of the attack. On October 27, 2009, the DNA analysis is complete.
It was Anna's blood on the hammer And we know that this was the weapon that was used to attack Anna. The only question now was it Dominic that used it?
A closer look at the high-top sneakers found at the scene provides an answer to that question.
The shoes come back to having his DNA and her blood on them.
I was really proud that everybody did their part, because it takes a team of officers, and they never gave up. Everybody that's been in this business long enough knows, but when you persevere, luck kind of has a way of showing up.
But despite investigators' hard work, there's growing concerns that Dominic may never see the inside of a courtroom. Defense attorney Tim Neiman asks the court to evaluate his client's mental competence to stand trial.
There were a few occasions where some of his physical movements in the courtroom might be described as a little bizarre. They just seem to come out of nowhere. That's what led me to file 2 different petitions asking the judge to refer Dominic to the Center for Forensic Psychiatry.
After reviewing the psychiatrist's evaluations, the court makes its determination.
Dominic is competent to stand trial.
On March 8, 2010, in the Washtenaw County Courthouse, the trial of Dominic Oyorinde finally begins. In their opening statements, prosecutors portrayed Dominic as a violent young man, hell-bent on controlling every aspect of Anna List's life.
Anna had already tried to break up with him once before. That time, he acted violently to try to keep her in his grip. This time, though, things spiraled out of control.
Prosecutors argue that on the night of the crime, Anna arrived at Elena Jenkins' home around 12:30 and attempted to calm Dominic down about the loss of his cell phone.
What's wrong? What happened?
Somebody took my phone, okay?
Prosecutors claim that despite Anna's efforts to help Dominic, he became increasingly agitated with her.
Why did you take so long to get here?
Because it's snowing outside.
You can't drive faster?
No one knows exactly what the argument was over. I mean, she could have said, this is it. We're over, once and for all.
Rich! Rich!
My family's right. We shouldn't be together.
Where are you going?
Prosecutors assert that after Anna exited the vehicle, Dominic followed her, grabbed a hammer from the rear of the vehicle, and chased after her on foot.
Where are you going? Slow down!
Stop!
Anna walks eastbound, the defendant walks eastbound with her. As they're walking eastbound, we have an ongoing argument. No, Dominic, leave me alone. No, you're gonna do this for me. He's armed with a hammer. No, Dominic, I'm not. We're done. But that is just not acceptable to the defendant.
You're acting crazy!
Don't call me crazy!
He struck her once in the back of the head and then struck her again in front of the head.
Either blow was strong enough to kill her.
The viciousness of the attack was shocking to most people in the courtroom. It made for a very, very strong case.
The defense did attempt to use Dominic's mental health issues to show that the murder wasn't premeditated in order to get the charges reduced, but it was tough for them to gain any traction.
On March 12, 2010, Dominic Oyorinde is found guilty of felony murder and carjacking. 26 days later, during the sentencing phase, Anna's father delivers an impassioned address to the court.
Dear Anna, for 17 years and 357 days, I told her stories, I taught her to swim, and listened as she practiced violin. She created harmony. She embodied compassion. She was taken away with neither.
After listening to Anna's father, the judge sentences Dominic Oyorinde to life in prison without the possibility of parole.
It's a sentence well-deserved.
I was satisfied that we did our part for Anna's family. At least that gives some kind of closure.
But no one touched by this tragedy will ever forget the heartbreaking story of Dominic Oyorinde and Anna List, 2 star-crossed lovers who fate brought together and jealousy tore apart.
If he did it, you can strip it down to Dominic made a bad choice and ended up where he is, if you want to. But I don't think that's productive. I think it's productive to look at why Dominic became this person that he became, such as the way that we treat people in foster care, the way we treat the mentally ill, cause things like this to happen. And they will happen less as soon as we start to address those concerns.
Anna was someone that really had a lot of unbound potential. And for her life to be snuffed out in such a brutal way and in such a seemingly senseless way was very tragic for this community.
There were warning signs that the relationship was unhealthy. It's really important for people to take a hard, objective look at their relationships that they're in and just making sure that they're keeping themselves safe.